with ZNBS and I found out that they have amazing loans for the building materials that you wanted. So just head down to their offices and find out more.
With ZNBS, you can now get a building materials loan at competitive interest rates. All you need to apply is a ZNBS salary account or a stop order account. For details, visit any of our branches. Call us on 0211-228146 or 230896 or email mortgage@znbs.co.zm. Or you can visit our website on www.znbs.co.zm. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. Terms and conditions apply. Zambia National Building Society. Shelter through savings.
ZNBS.
For the kind of entertainment that grabs all your attention, we got you with MTN Netflix bundles. Just dial *117# and select Home and MiFi bundles to purchase Netflix bundles for your router or MiFi.
In order to give road users easy access to insurance and road tax, Madison General Insurance Company Limited and RATSA have introduced QR code certificates. This means you can print road tax and insurance on standard white A4 paper. But how do you make sure your certificates are valid? Easy! Here's how. Only buy from authorized sales representatives, accredited insurance brokers, or directly from our offices. Buy insurance and road tax online from online.madison.co.zm. Scan your certificates using a QR code scanner, which can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the App Store.
Call 4848. Engine, it's worth it.
Because home is where the heart is, we put love and soul into the production of our products. From earth to quality control. Every ingredient and process carefully monitored to give you the best. Let your dreams come true perfectly. Marco Polo Tiles, for a perfect finish.
Soul, what you waiting for? Come on, let's go. Shake and sip. Get up and show me how to shake and sip. Get up off your feet.
Shake things up with Shake and Sip Fruity Milk.
Shake and sip. Go, go, go. Shake every moment you be in the zone. Shake it up, shake it is the way to
Shake and Sip, when fresh meets fruity.
Good evening, Zambia. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's edition of Costa. I'm your host. My name is Andrew Mwansa, sitting in for Costa Mwansa. Have you ever asked yourself what could have been the state of Zambia had another political party other than the United Party for National Development taken the power in the August 12th, 2021 general elections? Of course, not the Patriotic Front, because the PF was in power for the last 10 years. They are out of power, but even out of power, the PF boasts of unprecedented development. Some of the complete works of the PF under former head of state Edgar Lungu are Chinese gifts, such as the Kenneth Kaunda International Conference Wing at Mulungushi in Lusaka have been commissioned by President Hakainde Hichilema. But as they say, the term of office in Zambia is 5 years for a political party and its presidency. After 5 years, political leaders go back to the electorate to ask for another mandate, which can be given or perhaps denied. Therefore, after 5 years, it is folly for a former ruling party to feel agitated when the incumbent commissions leftover projects. Government operates in succession, just like a ruling party takes over the good and the bad of the former ruling party. Welcome to Costa once more. My name is Andrew Mwansa. My guest is Leadership Movement President Dr. Richard Silumbe. Doc, good evening. Thank you so much for joining me on tonight's edition of Costa.
Good evening, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be here.
So much water under the political bridge after 10 months of the UPND in power. But before we touch on the state of nation, there are concerns about the relations between former President Edgar Lungu and the incumbent Hakainde Hichilema. Mr. Lungu has not been attending state functions. Last year, he attended the funeral of the fourth Republican President, Rupia Banda, where he condemned hypocrisy. Thereafter, he has been in the hiding from the public up until the funeral of Mr. Costa. What is your advice, to the old and new political party leaders?
Well, we expect them to be mature enough. Imagine these are people who have been at the helm of this country in leadership. So we don't expect them to be like kids who are neither there nor there. So we expect them to be mature enough to have mutual understanding and to know that once you're in power, there is a time to exit that office. So we expect them to be very mature and to ensure that they showcase the aspect of leadership to the Zambian people and to the upcoming leaders. We don't expect them to be having grudges, for instance. We don't expect them to be behaving like people who have issues amongst themselves and so on and so forth. Petty bickering and all those things, they show us that actually they have not gained much wisdom despite having that kind of exposure.
Do you think President Hakainde Hichilema should be above board and perhaps show leadership in this time?
That is what we expect, especially that now he's presiding over the affairs of this country. So we expect him to be above board to ensure that wherever he wants the former head of state to represent, to be there. Because we have seen that before. We have seen how mature leaders acted in the case of Michael Chirufyasata and RB, Rupia Banda. You remember that time when we were facing the Africa Cup finals, where the head of state had to dispatch the former head of state to actually be among the entourage for the officiating of the finals, as well as the getting of the cup, which we got. So that form of unity gives the nation a good atmosphere for development and also for not only economic development, but also for personal development in terms of showing leadership to each and every person in the country, that it's only when you are united, only then are you able to progress as a country.
10 months of the UPND, or should I say the New Dawn administration in office. What is your analysis as a leadership movement?
Well, 10 years after the New Dawn government got in power, we have seen them to be stuck, to be all over. No progress at all in terms of the economic development, which they talked about so much. We have seen them U-turn on so many things that they talked about. Remember the empty statements that when they are sewn in at 10 hours, at 14 hours, the dollar comes tumbling down. We didn't see that. Remember the famous job recruitment, which is now stagnant. So many things have not gone their way after 10 months. The reason is very simple. It's the mindset. What do they believe in? When they were coming into power, did they prepare the people of Zambia to actually realize economic development? The answer is categorical no. Their campaigns were not educational campaigns to mold people so that people can know the direction and to have the responsibility in the development of the country. Their campaign was about lies, about showing people that it's easy, that they have bags of investors who are going to pour money into this country once they are in power, and all those things culminated into the status in which they are today, where there is no much direction. We are seeing now these leaders moving around, asking for help here and there, which unfortunately is not going to help us. What we expect from a government to be is to tell the people the truth, to define the direction of the country like we have done as a leadership movement, because we know that the people should know what their responsibility is when we come into power. We need jobs. Millions of jobs, actually. So, in this sense, we want Zambians to participate in the economic development. Unlike the New Dawn government, who said that once they come in, their mindset is a colonial mindset that believes that anything foreign is better. The colonial mentality that thinks that only foreigners will come and develop Mother Zambia. And these are the things that have led them to where they are today. Because the foreigners they talked about, the foreign investors, they are nowhere to be seen today. And you cannot develop as a country if you believe that only foreigners are going to develop this country. We have to take responsibility. We expect leaders to chart the way forward. And from all this economic issue, what is underpinning any development is production. We don't hear anything about production in the New Dawn government. This is 10 months down the line. Look at their budget. Nothing about production or about consumption or about getting money from somewhere, so about IMF and so on and so forth. So they are stuck because they did not get the mindset right to run this country, and they did not prepare the Zambian people in the way that they should participate for us to get.
But what about, Dr. Silumbe, what about, policy pronouncements in the budget, such as, the increase of CDF from 1.6 million to 25.7 million, the recruitment of health workers and recruitment of teachers, free education that we're already seeing, the drop in inflation now to 10.2. Don't you think these are good indicators, and especially that the UPND, promised that they're coming to fix the broken economy?
First of all, we have seen how the prices have gone up. They are skyrocketing. We have seen how devastated our economy is. We cannot talk about the inflation because sometimes inflation rate can reduce when there is low demand, when people are not literally having money. When they are not doing anything, there's no production, they will still be low inflation rate, because inflation only comes as a result of demand and all that. So we cannot pick one indicator and say that the economy is doing fine because the inflation rate is low and so on and so forth, when people cannot even afford to buy anything, to buy food, to buy fertilizers in case of farmers, and so on and so forth. So there is really nothing to credit the New Dawn government in terms of the economy and the economic situation today. When we talk about other things that they are talking about, like job recruitment, let's look at the people they are recruiting: health workers, teachers, which they have not done, by the way, because of issues to do with money. They are always waiting for some government somewhere to give them money as loans to be paying that money as salaries, which doesn't make sense. That is not sustainable development. So when we are talking about jobs, we should be focusing on primary jobs that directly link to production. And in this case, we as leadership movement have been clear. We want the people, millions of young people, to be put into production, to participate in economic development by being productive. Those are the jobs that any government at this time should be focusing on, not secondary jobs that do not link directly to production, such as teachers, teacher recruitment, health workers. In a long term, that's when they connect to production. But in the meantime, we need productive jobs. So these are the jobs that we expect to change the landscape of the economy today. And when we talk about free education is good, but you cannot have free education when you cannot afford to eat. When we talk about the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what lies in the basic needs is food. All those things to do with education, self-actualization, they go above the hierarchy of needs. So if somebody is very hungry, cannot afford food at home, those children, you don't expect them to go and attend education. If they force themselves to go there, they'll perform badly because the economy is not good. So free education is not much a thing that we can be talking about when our economy is very devastated. People are suffering. There is no tangible plan to take the nation forward in terms of uplifting the needs of the people. These are the things that we are always talking about, which show us that the New Dawn government, actually, they are very stuck and they are not giving us the direction that is hopeful.
Don't you think you've been a bit harsh on this new government, Dr. Silumbe? They've only been in power for 10 months. They've been given a mandate by the people of Zambia 5 years. Don't you think it's a bit too harsh, to describe them as being stuck at the moment?
We are talking about the momentary situation today. They are stuck at the moment because this is 10 months down the line. We are not saying that maybe they cannot turn things around. They have 5 years of mandate, but we need to tell them, we need to give them a feedback of where they are today. As things stand today, they are very stuck. Probably they may turn things around. Who knows? But this is why we are adding our voice, so that possibly we want them to realize that the point at which they are today does not give any hope for any Zambian that we are going somewhere. We want them to up the game so that they can inspire everyone. They can inspire the Zambian people to start seeing the future, so that we can anticipate development. We need to get into these months running. That's what we expected from the New Dawn government. But 10 months down the line, we are not progressing. This is why we are saying, at the moment, they are very stuck. We don't know what the future holds, but we expect them to do much better than what we have seen in 10 months.
President Hakainde Hichilema has been commended by the international community in the corruption fight, rule of law, and basically his approach to national matters. What is your reaction?
I don't see what the foreigners see, or rather the international community see, because first of all, these international communities, they don't have the interests of the Zambian people at heart. Very few. I've not seen that, especially from Western countries. What they want to see in these countries, like African countries, Zambia inclusive, is that we are suffering, is that they are able to get our natural resources anytime, anywhere, at no negotiated base. So what they say really does not matter. What is in their eyes, the eyes of Western countries and foreigners, really doesn't matter to leadership movement, because we know that they do not have the best interests of our country at heart. So when they praise President Hakainde Hichilema, that is doing fine, everything is fine with him, and yet the Zambian people are seeing something different, then we have a reason to worry. Because if we say President Hakainde Hichilema is fighting corruption well, and is really stamping corruption out of this country, how many corrupt people has he jailed? How many corrupt people are punished today? None. How many people have been caught in this corruption? Nobody. So to us, it seems like it's a cartel of people who are the same, and they just play jokes that they are fighting corruption, and yet nobody is being arrested, and none has been showed to us that is corrupt, and there is evidence and is now being punished. It's all talk, no action. So we don't see any actions with regard to that from President Hakainde Hichilema. He falls below par in terms of fight against corruption, and we expect the New Dawn government to up their game so that we
what
can
does the
see
fight against corruption, a genuine fight against corruption, look, to you? Does it mean, Dr. Silumbe, that if nobody's been convicted, then there's no fight against corruption? If people are just genuinely not found guilty, does it mean that the president is not doing his best to ensure that the fight against corruption is won?
Here is a party that came into power through singing about corruption, talking about how many people are corrupt, throwing evidence about corruption, and they were voted into power. And suddenly, 10 months down the line, nobody is corrupt, nobody has stolen, nothing has gotten lost in this country, everything was perfect, and everything is going fine. And the talk about corruption is all talk, no action. So this worries us, and we feel that if they have realized that nobody is corrupt, actually, then we really worry where they're taking this country. Because 10 months before, every Zambian was convinced that this country is not being managed well. So much money was misappropriated. And if 10 months down the line they don't see any corruption, then we should be worried, because we might have just put in power a government that goes above the temperature of corruption that we had before, with a hotter temperature in terms of corruption, if I may say that.
Another indicator that the international community is commending President Hakainde Hichilema for is for the restoration of the rule of law, but also even local people here, like your colleague in the opposition, Harry Kalava, also commended President Hakainde Hichilema that there's been some form of sanity in the political arena where, political leaders like you are not being harassed anymore. You can freely go to any area in this country and you'll not be followed by the police or anybody.
Of course, we have been clear as leadership movement in terms of what the New Dawn government have done so far. We have been very clear with regard to Public Order Act, rule of law, letting the opposition free. The previous government was a criminal government. We are very much sure, and we have been clear on that. We cannot compare the New Dawn government to the previous criminal government, the PF government. Those were just a bunch of criminals who could do things, manipulate things, put people in jail for no reason, and so on and so forth. We are not seeing that with the New Dawn government. This is why we have been clear and we have commended them on that part. But we are talking about corruption, fighting against corruption, where we have not seen much effort from the New Dawn government. We are talking about the economic development, which they are not doing as they promised those before they came into power. So these are our concerns. We have no problem with the rule of law. We have seen how they've handled the issue of cadreism, for instance. All those things, they are fine. This is the reason why we have moved. We are not talking about the PF government today. We are in a different regime. What does this new regime do? They need to up their game in terms of the economic development for this country. We expect them to up their game in terms of the fight against corruption. We worry that if they don't do a good job, we are going to be worse off, worse than we are today. We expect these people to show the stamina, to show the viciousness in the fight against corruption, so that the nation's coffers can be secured. You are talking about CDF. CDF, if the fight against corruption doesn't show direction, all that money will be stolen. Very few people will benefit from CDF, and nothing will happen, and Zambia will still be in the same situation it is. This is the reason why the fight against corruption should be so vicious, so serious, that people should learn lessons from the people who are prosecuted, who were corrupt, so that people can now stay away from government resources.
Speaking about the economy, Dr. Silumbe, President Hakainde Hichilema's administration has managed to secure a staff-level agreement with the International Monetary Fund. If Zambia's creditors agree to offer Zambia breathing space, the IMF will offer a bailout package of $1.4 billion, dollars. Is this not commendable in regards to the economic fundamentals?
Well, we as leadership movement have been clear on that. We do not believe in development that is spurred by loans, IMF. Certainly, we have not seen any government, any state in this country that has developed as a result of IMF. So these are things that have been created by these so-called Western countries to brainwash us, to brainwash you and me, so that we think that money somehow will come here and then, boom, we'll start developing. Development doesn't come like that. You need to find ways of coming up. Moreover, money is a medium of exchange. You cannot receive money and develop. Anybody who has been given money, they squander the money, they can never develop like that. People who develop are those people who find ways of producing something and give out, and in exchange for that they get money. That is where development comes from. This is why you never hear of America being where it is today because of loans from any country. We have never heard that the UK borrowed money from someone for them to be where they are today. France borrowed money from somewhere for it to be where it is today. Germany, we have never heard of those things. Why then do we entertain thoughts that we are going to get loans and then we are going to develop as a country? It doesn't make sense, because it will never make sense, not even in 1 million years to come. The only way a nation can develop is by finding its own strength, and by its own sweat, and by its own toil, finding a way out, producing something that they can give to other countries, and in exchange for that, we start getting their money. And that money is a medium of exchange. From that point, we start developing. So, as far as the New Dawn government is concerned, there is no development. It's all enslavement.
What could have the New Dawn administration claims that they inherited a broken economy, they inherited very empty coffers. If you're in the position of President Hakainde Hichilema, what would you have done, to raise and rise this dying economy?
First of all, when the New Dawn government came into power, we all know that there was less left by the criminal PF government. But what it is today is that we are using that as an excuse for development. Let me tell you, if it were a leadership movement in power on 12th August 2021, the first thing we would do is, we know our stronghold as a people. As Zambia, we have number one, human capital. Millions of young people, very energetic, they have nothing to do, languishing in the streets. Number two, we have massive natural resources, such as land, we have uranium, we have cobalt, we have manganese, we have copper, we have so many gold, we have so many natural resources. So we know that the interaction between human capital and natural resources produces a product. And this product is what we sell to other countries and be able to gain revenue. We would create state farms in every district and produce enough maize, sell to Congo, sell to other countries, and gain forex. We would set up mining centers under ZNS mines dotted around. We have been brainwashed to think that a mine can only be handled by foreigners. And yet we have seen how Chinese, Indians are going into these places, Chongwe, Rufunza, creating makeshift mines. They gather few barefoot Zambians, villagers, they start digging, they find copper, they find gold, and they are selling. Instantly they become millionaires, and that makeshift mine becomes a bona fide mine. We would do that as leadership movement, running ZNS-run state, ZNS-run mines, ZNS-run gold mine in Kasensiri district, ZNS-run copper mines dotted around the copper belt. We believe that copper can only be found in the shaft, down with complicated machinery. And yet, before that, we had open pit mines. We know that the whole Nkana constituency sits on the copper belt. Patamatu in Rwanda sits on copper belt. All we need are picks and shovels and hoes in state farms. So these things we can afford, because the very month when UPND came into power, we made about 15 billion kwacha from ZRA, from all these taxes? What about National Road Fund agents? What about toll gates? How much money was gotten from there? They get millions in a day. All that money can fuel production. All that money can fuel creation of a cement industry and all these mines around with picks and shovels, no complicated machinery. And these young people, by the way, we have been clear, 4 million young people would be into these programs for 1 year, 6 months without payment. They only get payment after 1 year, 6 months because this period is training. During this period, how do they survive? They need to be on subsidy, on food stamps, such as bags of mealie meal, 2 bags per person of mealie meal, or 1 bag, chicken, carpenter, and so on and so forth. Because these systems, there is always, we just increase from 6 months training for ZNS to 1 year, 6 months. Zambia Army from 6 months or 8 months to 1 year, 6 months. It's very simple. After 1 year, 6 months. And in 10 months,
the economy would have been looking better than it is now.
Very much. You wouldn't compare that.
Those seem to be like, long-term projects,
Why should they be long-term projects when it's about getting people, establishing mines, establishing... what is so difficult about, for instance, picking gold at Kasensere district, where, by the way, villagers are picking gold, and we have stopped them. We have sent soldiers there to blockade the place so that we wait for a foreign investor to come and pick our gold. Does that make sense? We have mines dotted around. You go to Serenge, you see Indians, Chinese, they have gold mines, manganese mines, copper mines. They go into those mines barefoot with picks and shovels. So if someone tells you that no, that only a foreigner can do that, government cannot do that, then we are very, very devastated, brainwashed to the last levels that we will never recover. Probably our children or children's children will come and realize that, because these are the things that these so-called Western countries did for them to be where they are today. I can tell you, 1933, what happened? That was a Great Depression. And countries like the USA, German, 1 million Deutschmark was equivalent to $1 in 1933. The leaders there, what did they do? After they've lost World War I, they put their people to work. Millions of young people and old people went into the Rhine Valley to produce coal. And they produced and they sold to other countries. They never got any loans. Within 1 year, there was labor shortage in Germany. By 1934, $2 was equivalent to $1 Deutschmark. And there was labor shortage. People in Austria, Czechoslovakia, they were running to Germany to go and find jobs. This is very simple. And how did they fund those projects? It was food stamps. People were working on condition that they get free food. Free food in the streets. And people worked. And production went on. And eventually they were on salaries. And they produced. Today, the whole German is a powerhouse of production. Now compare the New Dawn government that has got not even one word in their budget about production, about creation of a factory, creation of a mine, creation of an industry. Nothing about that.
When you speak about production and the fact that one of the first things that you would have done was to recruit young people from across the country and start, giving them shovels and all these tools that they need to start mining, you seem to suggest a narrative that these mines would be under the state.
I've been clear. These are ZNS-run mines. We recruit young people in ZNS.
What do you say about people that say that government should not involve itself in the business of doing business?
These are the ideas that we as leadership movement are wise enough to debunk them, because they were meant to create slaves. They were meant to dwarf certain countries so that they don't come out of the box. They were meant to box you. This is what Western countries have done. Western countries, they used cheap labor, slavery from 1500s. They came into Africa not with money, with things, products that they have made. They made mirrors, they made guns, they made beads. They came to our chiefs. In exchange for that, they went with our natural resources such as tusks. They went with these slaves and so on and so forth. These laborers went and worked for hundreds of years for free without payment. They raised money out of our labor, and they made so many reserves, so much reserve, that they even stopped now operating businesses. They said now it's up to entrepreneurs, private sector, and they use money to fund those companies. When you look at Microsoft, Google, all these companies, this is why America can just order them to withdraw from Russia, for instance, because they know that the money they are using today is funded from the system, their reserve. This is the reason why Western countries are able to even impose sanctions, because they made so much reserve. Why is it that England, for instance, the UK, they have the biggest gold reserve? Where did they get that gold from? They store it from Africa for free. So if today they tell you that don't engage in business as a government, and yet you have never worked, you have never had slave labor, you have nothing, and you wait for entrepreneurs. Which entrepreneur is going to engage in business? They are going to tell you that, oh, you need foreign investors. Where are the foreign investors coming from? From the same countries, with money which they raised for a long time. And look at what happened when we were hearing that this company, some mine, had invested 1.2 billion in Zambia. What did we see? Wasn't it a representative from America? Some representative from America was saying, this is a good thing. See, we are now, investors are coming into Zambia. And that 1.2 billion US dollars, no one will even see it. It will never come to Bank of Zambia. It will be all talk. What we are going to see are machineries going there and getting all our natural resources. We are not going to have any touch in the profits. So these are the things we should debunk. We should participate in business. Our government at this stage should engage in business. Why do I say so? Because we do not have the opportunity to get cheap labor or to produce things or to steal from any country.
We seem to have walked this path before, Dr. Silumbe. What happened
let me just
Zambianization?
Finish. Let me just finish this point. If we do that, we engage in business, we are doing what the Eastern Bloc are doing. This is why Eastern countries are the rising star now. When we talk about Saudi Arabia, have they sold off their oil fields? They are running. Those are state-run oil fields. Russia, oil fields. All that oil comes from government. It's state-run. And they are not poor. And they are not about to go down, as we believe, as we have been taught. China, when you buy a Huawei phone, that money goes to Chinese government. And we have been told that we should just be looking, and they bring out their money here. That is slavery. They know that only Africans can agree to that. Eastern Bloc will never agree to that. They run their things. They run their natural resources. Their government engage in production because they know that that's the only way. They never had slave trade. They never participated in that. They never had slave labor. And they have their people who are working and they are paying them. The issue of us passing through that is not true. First of all, when we look at how Kenneth Kaunda developed, the University of Zambia was built by sacrifice from people, giving handouts, all much sacrifice. People were donating so many things and labor, and we built the University of Zambia. Was that a bad thing? It is still there. Where things went wrong is as a result of sanctions. What happened to our trade? By the time Kenneth Kaunda was going, he was on sanctions. So many mining companies were sanctioned. They actually reduced the copper prices artificially so that Zambian trade can be defunct. They did that with the idea of regime change because they didn't like Kenneth Kaunda and his policies. So these were man-made. And the reason why Kenneth Kaunda could not maneuver through that is because, again, they had little capacity to understand production and to understand development. So the likes of Kenneth Kaunda were at a certain level that they could not understand development. We are at a level where we could understand development and learn from other countries.
Under the leadership movement, tenure of office, to what extent will the state be dealing in business? What are some of the businesses that the state will live for the citizens to do? And I would also want to know how the interaction of the state under your government will be with foreign investors.
First of all, leadership movement has been clear. We want to support our local team. It's support your local team, local products, local is lacquer. We want to give tax breaks and tax holidays to Zambian businesses so that they can grow bigger and better. That is our agenda. We are not against private sector. But we know that today we have given tax breaks and tax holidays to foreigners, foreign investors. And we have done nothing to the private sector. And this is why, even when you give CDF, you are giving people who don't understand marketing, who don't understand business. You gather them together, give them $1 million kwacha, they will squander that money and run away. There is no business there. So what we are seeing with the New Dawn government is not an agenda that can bring about development. We as leadership movement want to run the mines, want to do things. If we create ZNS run mines, for instance, copper mines, we are going to allow every Zambian, every business personnel who wants to engage in mining with a license to produce. If they want to sell, they sell to the system, to government, to ZNS, so that all that copper can be sold through ZNS and they will get a fair share. This, by the way, is what China did. The times of Chairman Mao in the 1950s. Chairman Mao realized that with only farming, we cannot develop as much. He encouraged farmers because in their fields, there is iron. The soil which was there was rich in iron. He told them to build makeshift kilns, makeshift blast furnaces. And those people did that, each one was producing iron, and they were selling to government, to the state-run iron system. And they produced. And China became a giant iron exporter. So this is what we are saying. If we have ZNS run mines, it means that citizens will have also something to do. And they can even sell to government.
And the citizens will not have the power to make their own decision to sell, for example, their maize to the Congo.
If they want, they can sell. But we know that it would be difficult for them if they are at the smaller scale. Imagine if every farmer in the copper belt, in those fields, in Busakile, everywhere, they have built some copper production. They can dig copper and process with basic processing skills that we know anyone can do. Because even before 1890, we were doing that. If they are doing that, and each one is producing 1 kg per day, imagine 1 million Zambians. These private sector, they are producing 1 kg a day. How many kgs are we going to have a day? 1 million kgs of copper. This copper we can sell. They can either sell to government or they can sell to wherever they want to sell and actually produce and make money. And by so doing, we would be developing as a country. But what have we done today? We have taught our people that copper is only found on the Black Mountain or in the shaft at KCM or Mopani, which is not true. We need to re-educate the Zambian people. We re-educate the entrepreneurs. If government doesn't do anything, this is the reason why you don't see any entrepreneur. How can you create entrepreneurs if you as government, you cannot engage in successful business? There is no possibility of that.
So some Zambians, Dr. Silumbe, especially the voters, are accusing President Hakainde Hichilema of abandoning them. What should the New Dawn government do, especially in the area of the high cost of living that nearly everybody is highly complaining about, and which they are blaming on the Russia and Ukraine war?
What the Zambian people have seen is that they were given wrong information during the campaigns. This is a party that spent 15 years campaigning without giving even education to the Zambian people. These rallies we have, these are avenues for educating people, giving them information about how they can build this great Zambia together with their government. They needed that information, how they are going to participate. This is why leadership movement tells the Zambian people that they have a stake in development. We are going to use picks and shovels and produce copper, produce gold, produce uranium, produce manganese, and sell that manganese to other countries. Everyone will participate. After 1 year, 6 months, we are on salaries because we would have produced so much, sold so much, and we have forex, and everyone will be on salaries. And we keep building these industries to more sophisticated levels and allow private sectors who have seen what government is doing to compete and to grow bigger and better without taxes. We are going to give them tax breaks and tax holidays. That is how you develop. But imagine you tell people that, oh, when you vote for me, I have a lot of American investors who are going to come into Zambia. And people are clapping, oh, let's change the government. It's a new dawn. And we have not seen those Americans coming into this country. We have not seen all that money they were talking about coming into this country. And they are stuck together with their voters because they don't even know what they were voting for and what direction. Those are things that cannot work. We need responsibility.
Don't you think
the Zambian people
Silumbe,
and the leaders?
That's an insult on the Zambian voter if you say that they didn't know what they're voting for.
They are actually, it's very clear. I can tell you categorically that Zambians didn't know what they were voting for. If they had known, they would have requested for politicians to submit their manifestos, to actually tell them how is the roadmap, how are they going to be different from the PF. But they didn't do that. Remember the voting time. It was all about changing government. They don't even care what you say. It's not about manifesto. No one cared. They only cared about the one who has stayed for a long time, and they are giving him the votes. And these people must go. And that was the case. So there was nothing about direction of this country, where we are going, or where we are coming from. There was nothing like that. I hope Zambians next time, they need to spend time listening to their leaders, finding where they want to take them.
You speak clearly that the UPND are stuck now, Dr. Silumbe. And now one of the issues that is really biting is the economy. And speaking about the cost of living, what should we do really to address the high cost of living? What should be done in the immediate and in the long term to address the issues of the economy?
First of all, the idea that this government has got no money, completely no money, to start something or to spark the spirit of production is not true. We have so many avenues through which this government gets money. But the problem is the mindset. We want to get the money and spend it. We want to recruit more teachers and more health workers and spend the money. And probably that money will not be enough. So we need more money. Once we change the mindset, once we start thinking production, we are going to realize that we need basic systems, basic employees. People are going to lift picks and shovels. People are going to create mines through ZNS. People are going to create state farms through ZNS. You cannot tell me that ZRA money cannot help in producing 15 or 4 million hoys or 4 million shovels or 4 million picks. These are basic tools that we need. And when we do this, we start producing. We are going to sell. Imagine we have 8 neighbors around and these are waiting for maize. And yet we are even scared to sell the little maize we have produced. We don't want business. We have manganese. And only Chinese are participating in manganese. And we have just absconded. We think that it's nothing. Why don't we produce that manganese and sell? All these are things that the government, at government level, through systems such as ZNS, we can do. We can dive in there, produce copper, produce diamonds, produce gold, produce manganese, produce cobalt, produce all these things, sell to other countries and get vast revenue out of it and start rebuilding the economy. It's only production. Without production, really, we can be thinking hills and mountains. We are lost, completely lost. No money from anywhere, be it IMF, World Bank, whoever, relieve the situation that we have today.
What is President Silumbe, what is your vision for Zambia? Where do you want to take this country to once you're given the mandate as leader of this country?
I want to take this country towards the direction of production, self-sustainability, not where you are a disgraced nation, a nation that goes begging everywhere. We want to rediscover our lost values. Remember, before 1890, we were able to produce steel. People were not getting steel from anyone. No one made hoys for us. People could make hoys in northern province. They could pick stones that are rich in iron. They smelt them. They make steel. They make hoys. They make spears. They make whatever they wanted to make. At Kaflafuta and Bwana Mkubwa, people could get greenish stones, smelt them. They make copper bangles, copper plates, and so on and so forth. These are the lost values that we have lost completely. We as leadership movement would want to rediscover these lost values so that we can bring back the Zambia that everyone would love to live in. A Zambia that is respected, a Zambia that is sustainable, a Zambia where our hands and everything, our toil, our efforts matter, and we can recreate that Zambia. These are the things that we need to do if we are to deliver the great gifts to future generations, the great Zambia. As at now today, where we have neglected even our land is slowly going into foreigners' hands, and we are giving title deeds to foreigners. We have no future for ourselves and future generations. We are basically letting our children and children's children go into an unknown world where they will be all bunched in misses, in all these small combons, and yet vast land throughout the country is owned by foreigners. And we will be in a devastated state.
But what is your clear vision on the sectors such as agriculture, tourism, to mention but just a few?
We have been clear on the agriculture sector that number one, you cannot talk about agriculture, all this myth of FISIP and all that, without firstly empowering the farmers. How do you empower the farmers? Every person who has a piece of land, if you do agriculture, you have a piece of land. We are going to give you title deeds. That title is your empowerment, is the emancipation. Once you have that title, you can go walk into any bank and you can access money. Buy yourself feed on time if you have animals, seed on time if you want to grow crops, and fertilizer on time, and be able to start farming as a business and produce and sell those products wherever you want to sell and make money, make profit out of it, and grow bigger and better. That is the direction for our farming. No foreigner will own title deeds in this country, because we know that title deeds is a birthright. It is a reserve of a Zambian person, a Zambian by birth, and not foreigners. Imagine we have so much land which is lying, which has title deeds, and these people are not even in Zambia. They're in somewhere in the UK, in America, and they have taken title deeds.
You're going to repossess
and we are
title deeds from foreigners.
We are going to cancel those title deeds. Those foreigners, they are going to reside on title deeds, the owners of that land. All this land they are selling. I can give you an example of Serenje, where a chief sold about 3,000 hectares at 300,000 kwacha. And he bought, with that money, he bought a Pajero, which is now defunct, it's on stones. And meanwhile, that foreigner, he got that land, he went to Bank of China, got a loan out of that title, and he has invested there, and he has fenced the whole lot of it. So that place is no longer Zambian. So we have lost that land. We are going to recover that land under the leadership movement. The owners, those people who used to farm in that area, who used to reside on those places, all those people who were evicted are going to be given those title deeds. And that foreigner will be renting to those from those people. He will be renting. He's going to get into new contracts with those people because they are the landlords and he's a tenant. We are not going to chase them per se, but we are going to change the rules so that they can be renting to the real owners of that land. That is the policy of the leadership movement.
Policy of leadership movement on tourism?
Tourism, we want, as you have seen, in our manifesto, we are clear. We want to make Zambia a real country, flourishing with green. We are going to replant trees. We are going to restock our animals that are getting extinct. We want, when you are passing in these places, we have parks where we have impalas and all these things. We are going to restock all that. And we are going to truly make the Victoria Falls a tourist attraction. I was at the Victoria Falls some months ago, and I saw how devastated that place is. All in the name of these foreigners, they tell you, oh, this is a natural heritage site, and it has been made and developed, and very few foreigners can go there. There is no hotel. We want to build the tallest building in Africa near the Victoria Falls, so that somebody doesn't even have to reach the Victoria Falls. He should just be on that tallest building and be able to take a selfie, and the mighty falls is on the background. We want to compete with Dubai, with Burj Khalifa and all these things. That is the kind of mindset we want to have. We want to be winning. We should not be begging. We should be competing. We should find ways of becoming competitors. I mean, in this world, in this global world, not where you are just always begging. You always think that there's nothing you can achieve. We as leadership movement want to compete. We are going to bring back the spirit of competition.
Has already set a tone in regards to the education system, and they've already communicated what they want to achieve. What is your policy as leadership movement on education, and will you continue with this trajectory that the UPND perhaps would have left on in terms of free education?
Free education is something that we uphold as a leadership movement, because I am a beneficiary of free education, and I've seen that it works in a country like this, where so many people are poor, they can't afford education. That's a good direction, but we want quality education. The New Dawn government is providing free education with no measures in terms of quality and so on and so forth. We want quality education, but what type of quality are we talking about? It is a revolutionary education system that we want to bring in, where a person goes into education and he becomes a maker of things, producer of things, believing in ourselves, believing in our skills. We want that kind of bridge between theories and actual practicals. So we want to bridge the education system with the industry and produce makers, producers, people who can come out of the university and set up a company and be able to succeed in business, and not these theorists that we are seeing today who come out of the university and all they want is to line up for jobs, and there's nothing about wanting to contribute to this country. They only think about what the nation owes them and not what they can do for the betterment of the nation. That is the kind of spirit we want to inculcate in the Zambian education system. Not such kind of sentiments such as, no, we are a landlocked country. We are a land-linked country. We don't need any viruses from Western countries. We are going to stamp out all these things that are in our education system so that people can be free once again and be able to see things that others would have not seen. Because of these viruses that have been planted in our education system, people don't see anything. They think that there's nothing they can do. When they are educated, it's only a paper, they have to look for jobs. Imagine we have School of Mines today at the University of Zambia that doesn't own not even one mine. We would want graduates there to go out there and scatter around with their mining companies, producing minerals, and be able to participate in the mining sector. Not what we have seen today, where all these graduates, they line up to Kalumbila mine, KCM, Mopani, and yet people have not even gone into the Department of Mining, who have not even done any metallurgy, any geology. Chinese, Indians, they are all over Chongwe, all over Rufunsa, digging copper, digging manganese, digging gold, and they are succeeding in that. These are the things we have to look at. You cannot talk about entrepreneurship when you have a destroyed education system that feeds in the colonial mindset that believes that anything foreign is better. It feeds in the colonial mentality that thinks that only foreigners can develop Mother Zambia. A graduate is looking for white people and those foreign companies where he can work, as if he knows that there's nothing, is good for nothing. All he can do is to hide into that and get money. That is the kind of mindset we want to remove in the Zambian education system. We want graduates to come out there bold, with resolve, getting out there, be able to succeed, start businesses, start producing, and be able to matter in the economic system of this country.
Seems that it's going to be an overhaul, change in the entire system when leadership movement takes over. But different successful governments, one of the issues that they, speak about is issues that surround the amendment of the Constitution. The MMD spoke about amendment of the Constitution. The Patriotic Front spoke of the amendment of the Constitution through the infamous Bill 10, like we all know it. Even this new administration is talking about the amendment of the Constitution. What is wrong with our Constitution, and what kind of amendments would the leadership movement bring to this Constitution that we have?
The only area where we are going to amend the Constitution or any laws is with regard to corruption, number one, where we have seen that a person can be corrupt and still get away with it, just bring back a little money. Someone stole 1 million, then he goes to whichever, all these institutions, they pay back 100,000 kwacha and they are let free, they are given immunity. Those things we are going to suspend when we come into power. As you are aware, we have been clear as leadership movement, corruption is non-bearable, is 37 years imprisonment. We don't want anyone to play with government resources. That's number one. They say for every hacking at the leaves, there is but one strike at the root. To stop corruption, you must be vicious. You need to mean it, so that nobody, no civil servant would even dare pocket 100 kwacha from government coffers, because they would have known what awaits others. And by so doing, we are going to preserve government resources. Imagine all these programs that we have, they need resources. You can never run a leadership movement type of mindset programs with the kind of mentality that we have in the civil service and the politics. These politicians, none of them can fit in such a mission. We need to curtail such kind of corruption so that all money is reserved for progress, for programs, for production, and so on and so forth. Once we do that, then we are good to go. We will know that we are going to achieve each and every mission that we have in our government programs. This is why China is developing. All these countries who were nothing a long time ago, they are developing. We can talk about Malaysia, Singapore, all these. You go and check their constitution. What is corruption? Life imprisonment. Go to Russia, go to China, go to South Korea. Corruption is non-bailable, is life imprisonment. Chinese are just corrupt here, where there are no laws. In their place, no politician is corrupt there. This is why China is growing.
Another interesting piece of legislation that most successful governments speak about is the Public Order Act. What is your policy on the POA, and do you intend to repeal or perhaps amend it?
First of all, we all know, including the New Dawn government, they know that Public Order Act was a law that was passed, that was put in to curtail independence. It was put in 1954 to stop all agitation towards independence. And that law has constantly been revisited, and it has been maintained, because any government that gets in, they realize that this is good for the opposition, to curtail the opposition. So that is what it is. This is why when we are talking about repealing these issues, sometimes it may be all talk, no action. But we as leadership movement are not very much concerned with that, because whether you keep the Public Order Act or not, if you are in power, one day or another you still have to go. So it really doesn't matter, and it doesn't help any any political party, any ruling party. Look at how the PF tried to maneuver with all kinds of roadblocks, but where are they today? They are gone. So it doesn't matter. So with this, to us, what matters is if the constitution or those laws are really allowing the country to continue degenerating, like corruption, things that are meant to support criminality. Those are the things we are worried about. These things that are meant to curtail
freedoms of people,
because sooner or later they will have to go, and it will really not matter anymore. So we are not in power. We are not going to force the New Dawn government to repeal that act. And definitely, where they see that it works for them, they will maintain it. But it is not much of an issue with the leadership movement.
It has rained arrests, for private citizens, but also for political party opponent leaders in the opposition, that defaming the president. The law on the defamation of the president has been one of the laws that has been spoken about in the news this past week and the other past week. What is your view on the law of the defamation of the president?
We do not support insulting the president because the president is the head of state, and we expect, whether you are in opposition, you are a citizen, it's not good for you to demean the president. He represents the country. One day or another, you are going to be a president. If you insult the president, would you want to be insulted? If they say, do unto others what you them do unto you. So that's why we do not support this idea of insulting the head of state. We can talk about issues and not necessarily insulting the head of state. So these things have come because we have polluted their political atmosphere. And we think that when you insult the loudest, that's when you are going to be covered, you are going to be all over on social media, and so on and so forth. So this is actually a degeneration of character. Our character as Zambians are being degenerated.
How do you expect the media to operate under the leadership movement?
We expect them to have freedom of expression, to have their rights preserved, and we want them to be responsible. The same way we would want ourselves to be responsible. So that itself makes a win-win situation. We don't expect to curtail the media because the media actually gives you where you are failing. If the media publishes where you are lacking, you need to act. So the media is good. That's why we call it the fourth estate. So the media should be free. The media should be able to self-censor. The media should act on morality. For instance, why should you cover a person who has insulted the president? If the media covers that, then they are not exercising the responsibility. We want the media to be responsible. We want citizens to be responsible. We want the opposition to be responsible. And we want the ruling party to be responsible. If we do that, then we are going to create a world in which everyone would want to live in.
Dr. Richard Silumbe, lead and president of the leadership movement, thank you so much for having come and shared your vision, even as you plan to head this country, Zambia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for watching. My name is Andrew Mwansa. See you again next week.